Hey everybody, welcome back to Bob Appetit. This week I want to take you on a little journey back to the delicacy of my home state, pepperoni rolls. Soft, chewy, with a little bit of heat, you will find these rolls all over West Virginia. But you might not find them elsewhere, because they're illegal. But let's get to cooking. Now, there are many recipe options for pepperoni rolls that have you buy pre-made biscuits or dinner rolls, but we're gonna make our own because that's what Mama would have wanted. So, for the dough, you're gonna need 1 cup of milk, warmed, a ½ teaspoon of white sugar, a 1/4 ounce of active dry yeast, 5 cups of bread flour, ½ a cup of white sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 eggs, and ½ a cup of butter melted. For the pepperoni rolls themselves, you're gonna need 1 8-ounce package of pepperoni and 6 ounces of mozzarella cheese shredded. And finally, for the optional egg wash, you're gonna need 1 egg, beaten, Italian seasoning, and red pepper flakes for topping. First up, we're going to make our yeast mixture. Combine your sugar, yeast, and warmed milk and let sit for 5 minutes. If you can't or don't want to use milk, you can use water instead. But we're using milk here because it's gonna help make the dough creamier and a little bit sweeter, which is really gonna complement the heat and fat from the pepperoni and cheese. Now we're going to combine our bread flour, sugar, and salt into a mixer that has a dough attachment. Then add your melted butter and eggs. Finally, pour in your yeast mixture. Lock your mixer and set it to 2 or 3 for 5 minutes, pushing down the dough as it creeps up the sides too much. Back I say! Just like the milk, the bread flour here is optional, and you can just use all-purpose flour. But we're using bread flour because it has more proteins, and by virtue of that, more gluten compounds, which is gonna allow it to hold its shape and less likely to break in the baking process. The risk with bread flour is that all those gluten compounds can also make the dough dry. However, with the milk and cheese and pepperoni fat that is gonna permeate our roll, we don't have to worry about it getting dry. We got you beat, glutens. Once your dough is mixed and is sticky to the touch but doesn't stay stuck to your fingers, lay it out on a lightly floured surface and give it 2 to 4 quick hand presses, rotating 45 degrees and flipping over each time. Now form it into a ball and lay it in a well-oiled bowl. Flip it over and roll it around the bowl gently to coat in the oil before covering with a plastic wrap and letting it sit until it doubles in size, about an hour and a half. While we wait, let's chat a little bit about the history of the pepperoni roll. Made by Giuseppe Argiro in Fremont, West Virginia in 1927, the popularity of this bread roll can tell us a lot about the people of the time. These things are small, portable, can be eaten hot or cold, and have thick ends that can easily be discarded. Much like the British sausage pasty, these things were perfect for miners who may only have a quick break and possibly had to eat with their soot-covered hands. The popularity only grew when the Italian immigrants flocked to the area to help support the building of the railroads. Okay, it's been an hour and a half. Now that it has doubled in size, let's divide it into 20 pieces. I find it easiest to divide it in half again, and then cut that into 5 pieces. The math checks out. Trust me. Now that we have 20 pieces of dough, let's make them into the rolls. Flatten them out from the center to make a square roughly 4 inches by 4 inches. Add a layer of pepperoni along one of the sides, and then add your grated cheese towards the back of that pepperoni. Add another layer of pepperoni to cover the cheese, slightly offset from the first layer, and boom! What dastardly ingredient makes these rolls so dangerous that they're actually illegal in some areas of the United States? Pepperoni. In the late 1970s, the USDA wanted to switch the classification of pepperoni rolls from being a baked good to having to follow the same regulations as processing meats. This would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for the factories to switch their processing and would have ruined the local bakeries making these wonderful pepperoni rolls. But a local senator, West Virginian, stepped in and stopped it from becoming a federal regulation, saving the local industry. But some states and municipalities still wanted to hold on to the rule that if you couldn't see the meat and it went in raw, then it had to meet the new regulations. So in some states, you can't get a pepperoni roll. That's just sad. Tightly roll your dough up, being certain to keep the pepperoni tucked into the roll rather than just pushing it away. Once it's fully rolled around, roll up the sides and close them off. I prefer to roll them in the direction that they're spiraling, but it's your choice. Sealing them here will keep the fat from the pepperoni and the cheese inside the roll rather than letting it leak out. Preheat your oven to 350 and slap an egg wash onto these rolls to give them some color during the baking process. You can also use this time to add some seasonings to the top. I prefer red pepper flakes and Italian seasoning to add to the overall heat and flavors of this dish. Let it bake for 17 to 19 minutes until heated through and the tops look golden brown. Let cool for 1 to 2 minutes and then serve. What makes pepperoni rolls so great is how they deal with the fat. By having the pepperoni in there while the dough bakes, the fat renders out from the pepperoni, exudes from the cheese, and gets all up in all of that dough, making the whole thing flavored. The whole dough has a little bit of heat, that nice sweetness from the milk. It holds its shape perfectly well, and as you can see, it has an amazing cross section. Plus, these things are perfect for dipping. I usually dip them in a pizza sauce. My own recipe can be found down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share the video. It super helps our growing channel. And as always, remember, study at the dinner table. We'll catch you next time.